And we begin with the kickoff to what will be one of the biggest 4th of July getaways in years. Travel forecasters say we are going to get close to reaching pre-pandemic levels. Millions of Americans are hitting the roads and taking to the skies. That's despite high gas prices and worries over flight cancellations. And it's not just travel. Those 4th of July cookouts will also cost you more. The average price of hot dogs is up 43% this year. Beverages are up too. Soda is more expensive and beer prices are nearly 8% higher. We're going to have full coverage this morning, and we're going to begin with NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa, who is in Chicago. Maggie, good morning to you. As we mentioned, AAA is forecasting one of the busiest travel seasons we've seen in a long time. Let us know, just how bad is it going to be on the roads?
I mean, Joe, it's going to be crowded and it's going to be expensive. I mean, take a look at these travel totals. 47.9 million Americans expected to travel over the 4th of July holiday. 42 million of them expected to be driving. The rest, of course, flying and taking the train. And a lot of headaches expected, but especially the price of gas, top of mind for a lot of people. When you look at current totals, I mean, they're still painful. We're hovering at $4.84 for the national average for a gallon of gas nationwide. That is coming down from the peak of where it was above $5 just a week or two ago. But it is still wild when you look at past totals. I mean, we've come up more than $1.50 in the last year. And then, of course, when you pivot back to people flying, delays and cancellations have been stacking up for weeks. We've all been watching that story progress. And already this morning, hundreds of them popping up across the country. And, of course, it's still early. Joe?
My travel plans this weekend involve an Amtrak train and a ferry, so I'm a bit of an outlier. Most folks are driving or flying. Okay. What's the advice for those folks to get ahead of any potential travel headaches besides, hey, you should have left yesterday? Well, now it's too late.
Yeah. I mean, I'll check specifically for your travel advice because that's definitely an outlier. But for people flying and driving, the mutual advice is definitely to allow for extra time. And I know that doesn't sound like much fun or maybe not even realistic for some people, but experts say it is pivotal given this travel weekend and all the headaches we're seeing. If you're driving, they say try and leave before noon today. That's ideal. If you're flying, sign up for those airlines alerts so that if your flight is canceled, you can find out early and make a backup plan. Joe?
And with many Americans really feeling the pinch when it comes to their wallets, you're in Illinois. They've eliminated a 1% grocery tax there for a year to try and help offset the cost increase. What's the reaction there? I mean, it's not much, but do folks say, hey, every cent counts?
100%. I mean, that's going into effect today. So a lot of people kind of finding out about it as we speak. It's why we're at this Jewel Osco this morning. We want to ask shoppers about it as it officially kicks in. But we've been talking to people leading up to this. As you said, it's 1%, so there is, I guess, kind of a sarcastic, like, whoop-de-doo element to that. But at the same time, they're not going to turn any savings down. Take a listen.
I mean, I'll take it since it's like 1%. It's cheaper than what it was, but it definitely could be better. But.
Yeah, has it been, I mean, how hard has it been for families that you've seen?
It's been, like, really hard. Like, we live in Iowa, but, like, Illinois is pretty close to us, so, like, we could just hop over and buy groceries. But, yeah, it's just been a lot of struggle. Like, we spend so much money, like, left and right, and sometimes we, like, don't get groceries for, like, 2 months.
And then we should note, too, to try and bring some more relief, the governor of Illinois also suspending the inflation adjustment for Illinois' motor fuel tax rate, a.k.a. a gas tax. And that sounds great, too. But when you look at it, it actually boils down to a reduction of 2.2 cents per gallon. So talking to people there, again, they're saying they'll take what they can get. But obviously, families are still hurting. Joe?
That's definitely the case. Maggie Vespa, bonus points for incorporating whoop-de-doo into your report this morning. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Let's dig in a little bit more now and talk about just how expensive this 4th of July is going to be for everyone. Take that backyard barbecue. The average price tag for a cookout for 10 is nearly $70. That's up $10 from just last year. Kristen Myers is editor-in-chief of The Balance and joins us now. So, Kristen, if that barbecue is $10 more, what exactly are we spending more on, and how can we rein in costs if we're having a big 4th of July celebration?
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, there's a lot of items at the grocery store that is going to be far more expensive this year than last year. And over at The Balance, we actually decided to do an analysis of some of those really, popular or favorite barbecue items that folks could really be spending a lot of money on this year. And we found chicken wings, of all the things, actually was seeing the biggest increases, up 54% since last year. And then after that, it's actually the propane tank, up 26%. So just even turning your grill on, Joe, is actually going to be setting you back a pretty penny.
That really hits the point. Every aspect is up this year. I mean, we mentioned also the high price of gas, and we heard that that's not going to stop people from driving. In fact, a report by the travel website The Vacationer says 55% of Americans still plan to travel for the holiday. That is an 8% increase over last year. What are you hearing is the reason for this, that people are still hitting the roads?
You know what? It's really just all about that pent up demand. Everyone was stuck inside for so long. So even though we are seeing a lot of American consumers changing some of their spending habits, deciding to spend a little bit differently, even drive less, they are still not going to turn down an opportunity to travel, get out of their house, see their friends and see their families. We were wondering, hey, maybe people might not decide to barbecue this year. And I don't think that that's going to change this year just because prices are going to be a little bit higher. I think what's going to happen is that people are going to start making a little bit of changes to their plans. Maybe they won't drive as far. Maybe they decide instead of those chicken wings, for example, they're going to load up on hamburgers instead. But I think, again, Americans are making it very clear when it comes to spending, they're going to continue to spend money, even though these inflation levels are still hovering near those 40-year highs.
Let's talk more about those gas prices we were just seeing images of a moment ago. The national gas price averages have been declining ever so slightly. On Thursday, the average was $4.85 per gallon. That's according to AAA. So why are we seeing this gradual drop? Can we expect that trend to continue?
Yeah, I never thought I would be in a scenario where I would say, oh, thank God, gas is only $4.84. But that's where we are right now, since it was at those record highs of over $5 a gallon nationally on average. The reason for this right now is actually some recession fears, and demand is starting to drop. So that risks of recession are really weighing on demand. So we are seeing oil prices starting to decline. Now, of course, oil prices essentially precede what we're going to be seeing at the pump. So when oil comes down, we do see those gas prices come down. OPEC Plus, that's the oil cartel, they also have decided they're going to stick with their production strategy. So they're actually going to start increasing oil production, at least for the next couple of months. We're going to have to wait till the end of the summer into the fall to see what they decide to do going forward. So there does look like there could be some relief. I want to caveat this and say, we are still seeing, however, incredibly high gas prices. But again, as your previous reporter was saying, every cent counts. So I think people are happy to see those prices decline, even just 10 or even 20 cents a gallon.
We will take what we can get. Kristen Myers, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great holiday weekend.
Thanks.
Whether you're making plans to travel or to ooh and ah at the fireworks, weather is going to play a key role this weekend. So let's get a check on your Morning News Now forecast with Michelle Grossman. Hey there, Michelle.
Hey there, Joe. I love that. Yeah, well, we're looking at some showers to start out today and also really the first part of the weekend. And then we have an improvement for the actual holiday. So taking a look at radar, we're looking at some showers early this morning. We're looking at the radar really lit up in the plains, the Midwest, the Rockies. We're looking at the Great Lakes into the South Central states, also some showers and storms. And that will be the story as we go throughout the rest of today. As we zoom in a little closer to the Southeast, the South Central states, this is really the area we've been watching for the past few days. We're going to continue to watch it today and also over the next several days. We have that stationary boundary that's been draped there, bringing those showers and storms. You can see some heavy rain in parts of Louisiana and also Texas. That's going to be the bullseye of where we're going to see the most rain. So really soaking rain through Saturday. Lake Charles, you're in the bullseye. Totals up to 7 inches of rain. We do have a flash flood watch through Houston, also Galveston through Saturday. Also looking at heavy rain along the coast of Carolinas into parts of Florida, and you can see also some other areas where we have pockets of heavier rain. Now, as we move to the northeast, we have a cold front that's moving through. It's going to cross through the Great Lakes, bringing showers through Ohio to Maine today. And then by tomorrow, this is where it gets a little tricky, especially if you'll be traveling on the roadways, also the air. We're going to see the chance for severe storms with downpours through the east from New York City to Boston, Philadelphia, D.C. You're included there. So certainly some slowdowns as you head on the roads and also in the air. 48 million at risk for damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some damaging hail as well. We do have a tornado threat as well. So again, that's a pretty large area where we're looking at strong storms. So tomorrow we're looking at impacts through Boston to D.C. and then we improve Monday. We kind of clear that out. We still do have some slowdowns likely through Charlotte, Atlanta, Orlando, and also Miami. Now we're hot. Today is going to be a hot and humid day in the Northeast. Temperatures into the 90s in D.C. It's going to feel like 97 once you factor in that humidity. But Joe, by tomorrow that cold front moves through and then we're feeling pretty good after that. Back to you.
I can feel the humidity coming off the screen there. All right, Michelle, thank you so much. We'll check in with you next hour.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court has wrapped up a truly historic term. The finale, Justice Stephen Breyer swearing in his successor, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, yesterday before he retired from the high court. This year, the court's conservative majority ended the federal right to abortion, expanded rights to carry guns in public, and defended the role of religion in public settings. Just a few of the huge decisions from one of the court's most consequential terms. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joins us now to take a closer look at all this. Danny, good morning to you. I do want to start with one of the last two rulings that came down yesterday. It's getting a lot of attention. The decision limits the EPA's ability to regulate the energy sector. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote in the majority opinion that trying to force a transition away from coal by capping carbon emissions was, quote, a sensible solution to the crisis of the day, but it is not plausible that Congress gave the EPA the authority to adopt on its own such a regulatory scheme. So, Danny, walk us through this decision and what exactly does this mean now for President Biden's climate agenda?
This decision is less about whether or not there is a climate change crisis and more about whether or not Congress empowered the EPA to extend its power beyond that which Congress gave it. And this is a common theme of the conservative originalist block of the court, which is that an agency, a regulatory agency, cannot exceed the powers given to it by Congress, even if that is ostensibly for a very good moral reason. It simply isn't allowed. And essentially, if Congress wanted to give that regulatory agency the power to do so, it had to say so explicitly. And that is like I said, whether you're talking about immigration or energy regulation, that is a common theme with this court. They are very careful, the conservative majority, to not expand the regulatory agency power beyond that which Congress gives it.
There was a victory for the Biden administration yesterday. The court upheld the president's decision to end the Trump-era Remain in Mexico policy. That one forced asylum seekers at the southern border to stay in Mexico until their claims were decided. What more can you tell us about that ruling?
Just like the prior ruling we were talking about, the EPA case, you have a case here that is really about the same kind of thing, the extent to which Congress gives a regulatory agency power or the administration, the Biden administration, power to do things that Congress may not have been explicit about. But in this case, Chief Justice Roberts pointed out that the language in the statute says that the administration may return asylum seekers to Canada or Mexico pending the asylum process. And Justice Roberts concluded that because it said may return, that also includes the choice to may not return and keep those asylum seekers here in the U.S. or just choose not to return them to their home countries or Canada or Mexico. So because Justice Roberts found that power within the animating statute, then the Biden administration had the power here. And it was not undone by other seemingly conflicting areas of the statute that may have taken that power away. The magic words were may return. And if you may return them, then you may not return them to their home country.
So, Danny, big picture here, we know every Supreme Court term is important, but this one, it really felt like one major sort of game-changing ruling after another. What did this term tell us about the overall philosophy of this court and really its willingness to take on old precedents?
Certainly, this is a court that takes a view of stare decisis and precedent in a way that they are willing to look at it, and particularly in cases of constitutional import. The ability to overturn prior precedent is stronger, according to this court, when the precedent involves strictly constitutional issues. And we saw that in this term with the momentous Dobbs case. But the big takeaway is that this is a court that appears to be ruling right down party and ideological lines. We see a lot of 6-3 rulings and occasional 9-0, but mostly going right down the line.
Danny, looking ahead, the court has also announced some of the cases it's going to hear in the next term. Quickly, could it be another seismic session?
It could be. I don't think anything will be as seismic as this last month in the Supreme Court. It's been breathtaking. And the spectrum of issues addressed by the court have been just so dramatic. Everything from abortion to EPA to gun rights to even cases that would normally, I think, be a big deal that flew under the radar, whether or not doctors can be prosecuted for negligently prescribing opiates. And opiates, of course, affect everybody in this country in some way tangentially. So I don't know that we'll ever have another Supreme Court term as momentous as this one.
Danny Savalos finding the perfect hotel backdrop this morning. Danny, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good holiday weekend. Staying with the Supreme Court, President Biden has condemned the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, calling the ruling, quote, outrageous behavior and a mistake. The president also called on Congress to address the long-discussed filibuster in order to restore privacy rights to people who are seeking abortions. He had this to say during the conclusion of the NATO summit in Madrid.
I believe we have to codify Roe v. Wade in the law, and the way to do that is to make sure the Congress votes to do that. And if the filibuster gets in the way, it's like voting rights. It should be, we provide an exception for this.
For more on this, let's bring in NBC News correspondent Maura Barrett, who is covering the White House, and NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Rafa. Good to have both of you with us. Maura, let's start with you. This is a major departure from the president's previous comments on the filibuster. He had previously said changing the rules in Congress sets a dangerous precedent. So what changed? Is the president under pressure to try and get this done, perhaps ahead of the midterms?
Absolutely, Joe. And you heard in the press conference yesterday closing out NATO, Joe Biden very specific to refer to abortion rights around privacy rights, trying to call everyone under his umbrella there, essentially. And when it comes to the filibuster, we did see him be more open to it when it came to voting access before. And so it has changed. He has changed his position on this. But we have seen a lot of pressure from voters since the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned. I spent a lot of time outside of the Supreme Court in the days after that. And people were really adamant that while they are ready to vote come November to put more Democrats in Congress, that they also want to see action now, because one of the resounding chants that we heard outside of the Supreme Court was the idea of what comes next. And President Biden bringing that up in the sense of the fact that the Supreme Court could be reviewing rights to same-sex marriage or access to contraception. And so voters are looking to see action taken before anything like that could happen going forward.
So, Ali, the president's desires could be a moot point because there are two Democrats who've been staunchly against overturning the filibuster. That's Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. Do we know if their position on this has changed at all since the president made these remarks? And remind us, what does the Democrats need to do here to get rid of the filibuster?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. Well, we didn't hear from these two publicly yesterday, but their offices did tell us that their opinions on this have not changed despite Biden's comments. And the reality check here is that really the votes just don't exist to not only codify Roe into law, but to vote on this themselves. We saw this vote fail back in May. And the gut check here is that because this vote failed back in May, because of Joe Manchin voting with Republicans, the only thing that can be done to really change that vote, the optics of that vote, is to really bring this to the ballot box. And that's what we heard from so many Democratic leaders so far, is that this is going to become such a big midterm issue. And really the reason that Senators Manchin and Sinema are saying that they're not changing their minds on this is that they're saying that this vote, if they do vote to change the filibuster rules, it could really backfire on them if and when Republicans earn back the Senate majority in the midterm elections, Joe.
So, Maura, President Biden is set to meet virtually with 7 governors later today to discuss the future of abortion. What's the goal of this meeting?
Well, Joe, as the White House puts it, these are states that acted swiftly to protect abortion rights right after the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned. We're going to see states like Connecticut, Illinois, California, Oregon. And when you look at the map there, you'll see that some of these states are surrounded by those states that immediately had those trigger laws going into effect, or states that are considering abortion bans. And so the White House is trying to support these states that have taken action to protect the right to an abortion in any way they can, because as we we can expect those public health institutions are going to be inundated with patients working to cross state lines. The White House also saying it's working to protect that right as well. It actually updated its patient privacy guidelines yesterday to make sure that certain patient data disclosures aren't able to be transferred over state lines. People aren't, healthcare institutions wouldn't be held accountable state by state to reveal, for example, if someone had an abortion across state lines, if they needed to travel from a state where it was illegal. And so the White House has been very adamant that because it is now a state by state approach, that they want to support the states as they work towards protecting that right to an abortion.
Allie, let's shift gears slightly here. President Biden has been laying the groundwork for a run for re-election in 2024, 2 years from now. His approval ratings, they're much lower than when he took office, but he is the incumbent. He's the leader of the party. Does it feel like he has the full support of his party and party leaders right now?
Well, that's an interesting question, because remember, for a while it was a mystery whether he would run again. We heard, optimism from White House officials, but no official 2024 running plan. And so it almost left an opening for Democrats to wonder what the options were. And now that we're hearing official plans for a 2024 run, Democrats in Congress really have a decision to make. And some are taking the stance of, Biden is more following than leading. And some say that they don't think that's enough to be able to win a 2024 election against a possible Trump 2024 bid. Some are saying that he ran as a moderate who could bring people together in 2020, and he shifted it further to the left. Others maintain it's just a time for a new generation of Democrats to lead. And with Biden he will be nearing 82 years old in November of 2024. So they think it's just time for a new person at the leadership of this country. So really, he's looking for leadership and loyalty on this issue. We heard Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez a couple weeks ago be very hesitant, really dodging questions of whether she'd support him. And then you have Senator Bernie Sanders, a former opponent, committing to not running in 2024 if Biden is on the ticket. So really, I think it's still pretty early for Democrats to pledge their support, but already we're seeing the rifts in the Democratic Party, Joe.
Very early, but 2022 may answer a lot of questions about 2024. Maura Barrett and Ali Rafa, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.